Hello. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. If this is your first time joining in, thank you. And I'm so excited just to have you here and have you experience what it's like to tune in and get a dose of the energy over here on the playground. So we're going to dive right in. This topic has been coming up so much for me lately to specifically share because this is a topic near and dear to my heart. It is something that showed up for me early on in life, and I did not recognize it. I didn't know that it was unique. And then I think to a certain extent, I thought that it was weird and basically realized like nobody else shared these experiences outwardly. So I think a part of me kind of just shut it off and, allowed my mind to just kind of keep me safe in what was known and familiar and talked about. So, yeah, if you haven't noticed by the title of this episode, we're talking about telepathy and being telepathic. And I think this topic has really been coming up a lot for me lately to share because a lot of people are coming to me, and I think just a lot of gifts are being turned on through telepathy. And we're in a year 7, and there's a lot of inner diving inward. And I know you that probably wouldn't make some people think of psychic gifts in the sense of telepathy because that's in relation to others. And, in the year 7, we think about diving inward and kind of retreating, finding that wisdom within. Well, telepathy has been a gift that helps many, many people realize their gifts and their power and their uniqueness and their ability to connect in ways that aren't just from like the human known ways, like talking or writing or, doing things together. So for me, I would talk to animals, plants, other people, other beings. And, I think a lot of it was told that it was in my head and it was imagination. It was pretend, And so as an adult and becoming aware and awakening, I realized how much I talked to myself, right? And then it really took just some honest journaling and reflection and being asked the right questions too, like from some of my mentors, that, I really wasn't just talking to myself. There's definitely other energies that I'm exchanging information with. And one of the most obvious ones is my animals, my pets. And so, yeah, I would say my dogs for sure are one of the biggest like activators for me for recognizing my telepathic gifts as an adult. And then remembering like, this isn't the first time I've done this. This isn't like something I had to think about doing or had to even remember. I just did it because I was open, I was healing. I was opening up to different perspectives and saying like, what I know might not be all of the information, and I'm ready to know what I need to know to heal and grow. And with that, these gifts just like kind of fell into my lap. And so when I started, and I say that, but like, they didn't, they were within me the whole time, just like they are with you. But when I recognize, okay, like this is what it is, I could recognize that there's different experiences of telepathy, of being telepathic, of course, right? Like we're all different, so we're all going to experience it a little bit differently. But the way I was so willingly to exchange energy with my dogs is because it was like the removal of judgment. It was the removal of like fear or like like the limitations of other people's belief, right? Like in the beginning, I really felt like I had to find somebody else who was telepathic to work with, right? And for me, the dogs, they were just accessible. And for one, they were like open with me, right? They're my dogs. And two, this opened up a huge gift for me later in the road when I was ready for it and willing for it. But talking to them was fun. But like admitting like, oh, this is what it was, like this is what it is. Like it's the communication of energy. And it doesn't, the way it transcribes for me, it might be different or unique compared to other people, but this is what it is. And so once I started affirming like I am telepathic, I communicate with all beings with energy, you know. And when you start admitting this, like, you know, it your confidence is there, so you see more of what there is. And at this time, a lot of things really just like turned all the way up. And it was like I was having conversations all the time. It gets to the point where you really spend a lot of energy like deciphering, like, is this mine or is it not? Like, where is this information coming from? Like, is this a thought that's from me? Like, whether that's like my higher self, like whatever, like my consciousness. Is it a thought from like my higher self or my guides? Or is this a thought from like a dog or another person, you know? So really learning how to discern all of that and decipher all of that, but then also, you know, develop my psychic abilities in a way where I don't have any fear. Like I don't feel like I know I'm protected. And I've gone through, I've worked with mentors to really understand like how to work with these gifts. And I will say like not everyone is going to have this like activation where everything's like it feels very heightened. It might be gradual, and like if you're not open for this to come on, then you know, like it's not going to happen, and it doesn't need to. Like if this isn't something that's like kind of already in your realm or triggering you right now, or like curious about right now, like no worries, right? But what really happened for me was I noticed it with the dogs, and then, you know, like of course with people. So here's the thing, is because we want to justify everything. Our mind wants to keep things safe and familiar and wants to find a reason for everything. And so think about this with like your best friend or your sister, or your family member, somebody who you're with a lot. You finish each other's sentences, you think of things at the same time, right? Like there's this resonance, there's this like flow of energy that is familiar, you know it. There's this predictability, right? Our mind wants to say, well, yeah, it's predictable because you guys know each other so well. But what's really happening is the more you guys are together, so growing up or best friends or your partner, your spouse, you're spending this time together. And so you are finding where there's resonance, where the energy can flow a little bit easier. And you also know those areas where the energy doesn't flow. But what happens when you spend more time together is you're creating those pathways for an exchange of energy. And when you set intentions of communicating clearly, sharing how you feel, expressing yourself in an authentic way, and when you have intentions to remain open and to not judge other people's experiences and to see other people's experiences for what they are for them, these pathways get really cleared up of our expectations. It clears out our expectations. It clears out any clutter of what our mind wants to predict. And it allows this exchange to come through where I can think, I forgot to shut the garage door. And then I set the intention to send that message to Amy, my wife. And it's more of like, I want to make sure things are secure. It's like this, right? Like if I feel like I left the garage door open, then I'm going to send this message to Amy in a way that is a pure intention. Like I want her to feel like, okay, let's make sure things are locked up. Let's double check that everything's good for us to leave the house. So there's like this security, and sometimes this can come across as, did I lock that? Did I turn that off? Did I shut that? Right? You ever wonder why you get those thoughts? Like sometimes it's your higher self helping you out. Sometimes it's you just remembering. Sometimes it is somebody else sending you a message. And this happens where I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot to close the garage door. I need to text Amy. I have every intention to ask Amy to close the garage door. I have, like I'm thinking like, okay, I want her to know, like, let's get the house secure. So I send this energy towards her, like this like kind of foundation of we need to close things up. Whatever that looks like to you, right? Like this can come through in many ways, but the way I send energy is very visual. Like I'll think of it and like send that picture. She may or may not receive it as a picture. It might just be a feeling. It might, like send it in the way that you feel best. And so I'll send it, and then she'll text me and be like, hey, you left the garage door open, but I shut it for you. Like, and then, your mind might want to be like, of course she shut it because she saw that it was open. Like there's these things that like give yourself credit for. Like you have the intention to send love to somebody, right? Like we'll go all spectrums here. When we pray and say, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying for you, like what are we doing? We are setting an intention, calling an energy, asking for support, asking for energy to come support you or other people, whoever you're praying for, whoever you're thinking about. Telepathy on an energetic level is the same thing. It is conceptualizing a ball of energy and whatever intention you want to set with it, whatever message you want to include with it. It can be as specific or as general as you want it to be, but the intention is what matters. And you're going to send it specifically to who you want to. And that's all that is, but there has to be this openness and this surrender to receive. So I mentioned in the beginning that I had the thought I had to find other telepathic individuals, like others who knew they were telepathic, to start doing this. But when my gifts really turned on, it was just like it almost seemed like a joke, because it was so extreme that like you couldn't help but to have fun. Like I literally would like just play around in my house. Like I was having so much fun, like telling my kids something and then seeing if they would do it telepathically, right? And so it was just a lot of fun, but then to a certain point it was exhausting and a little bit overwhelming, because at the same time I was getting a lot of intentions and a lot of contradictory communication and actions. So with telepathy, if you're somebody who you're recognizing, this may be turning on for me, or I am telepathic, but I don't know like what this means, what this looks like, know that it, like, for me, it was a matter of getting a mentor. I went through a course, talking to my friends, talking to soul sisters who I know like can resonate with this, even if it's not specifically what they went through. There is this knowing that like awareness, right? Like telepathy is a new level of awareness. And when you drop into new awareness, there's a little bit of like unsettling. There's like this grounding that is needed. And so the best way for me personally to ground is to like connect with other people based on experiences. That's why I took a course, because I knew I would be in that course with like other people with similar experiences. And my mentor from that course, I'm in another container of hers, and huge help, just amazing help. And it really helped me with the discerning, with the clearing, with the setting boundaries. And that was like huge for me, because when you admit and when you claim this gift, you just like, it's like another way of receiving information, and like, whether you're telepathic or not, you're sending energy. And when you're telepathic, you're receiving that energy of intention before anything else, usually. And so I might like, so in the beginning, it was very hard, because like I would feel this message coming, and then they would show up and communicate something completely different. And I was like, whoa. And it was a big lesson at learning like how much we don't communicate what we actually mean. And not just for others, like this was for me too, because it was like, how clearly can I send this message, and then what I say following up that like really influences what happens next. And so honestly, a lot of my communication I declutter by doing through telepathy. Like I will send as much as I can through energy, and then I realize my communication is a lot less cluttered. I don't feel the need to fluff it up. I share my feelings when I need to, but honestly, my feelings can be shared a lot better energetically than through words sometimes. And so it's interesting to just kind of like discern and trust that like you get to tap into people's truest intentions, and you get to see their heart when you're telepathic, because they will have, and think about this, like setting intentions, and when you're communication in general, like when you're talking, you can want to say something, but your tone, right? That like intention, like that wasn't my intention to hurt you when I said that, but the energy underneath what you said was received, right? That's why like you can feel the tone of people. They might say they're sorry, but you know that they're not. Like this is telepathy intermingled, right? Telepathy is just the like exchange of information through energy. So we're already doing this. But I would say to be telepathic is really to trust, to observe, to receive. And then this is really like healing the air of communication. I feel like this is like Mercury. I feel like we're in Mercury retrograde right now. How funny is this? Jeez. But I feel like Mercury, like, is all about communication, right? And it's just kind of like laughing, because it's like communication, we make it more than what it is, and we make it harder than what it is, because we forget about all these layers. And communication can be simplified when we come down to the roots of what we actually receive. And there's all these things. Words are so beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love writing. I love talking, obviously. But like, words are beautiful when they are handled with love, when they're expressing truth, whether that's high vibrations or low vibrations or whatever. But sometimes the truth does not come out vocally, because of our filters, because of our fears, because of, X, Y, and Z. But what comes out pure is the energy underneath it. And so, well, this is just kind of like coming to a full circle. But Mercury is like saying, like, come back to what your body knows. And your body can feel when the energy underneath the conversation is different than what the conversation's actually saying, different than the words, right? That's where we lean into that trust. And we can do this when we set the intention to be open and to receive. So when, Amy and I, we spend a lot of time together, and I always have said, I'm telepathic. Like, I know this. And like, especially with Amy, like, I would always be like, we're telepathic. And she'd be like, no, it's because we're all around each other all the time. I'm like, yep. Yeah, same thing. and no, but she really caught on, because there were things that we thought, were a text message. And it's like, you go back and it's like, no, it was never in a text message. And she's like, how did you know that? And I was like, you told me. Like, she didn't realize she was telling me things telepathically and I was receiving them. And so we had this conversation about, how can this serve us? Because this was a little bit after I put up some boundaries and I realized, okay, this is where I can turn things on and kind of turn things down. And learning to, like, kind of shut things off from people who aren't super close to me, and really learning how to shut things off completely. Like, so I'm just by myself again, but not shut things off, turn things down. And so I had this conversation with Amy about kind of what was going on. And because one day she was like, get out of my head. And I was like, well, I will, like, that's okay. I can do that. But no, you're in mine too. And that kind of threw her for a loop. But, we had this talk about, of course, there's this predictability. There's this knowing. But why is that knowing not a gift? Like, it is a gift. We're not going to belittle that. And so Amy and I will, we'll set intentions and we will remain clear, especially like her job has her out of the house a lot throughout the day. And so I don't open, like, not always going to call her all throughout the day, but we'll send each other some information and it catches up to us. So it's pretty cool. I'm looking because I had so many notes on this, and it was like, just start talking. People need to know that telepathy is not, this is just something that we need to be more comfortable talking about, more open with. Because think about it this way, if we are open, and this isn't a matter of like, was this a message that I just received and now I need to do something with it? Like, that's not the energy of telepathy. Telepathy is like, if you're on the receiving end, so let's say you set these intentions to receive, you don't have to think about what you're receiving. You're going to receive it in divine ways. But like, setting the intention to be open is the key. And know that telepathy will come through, will be received in many forms. When I'm with my dogs, it's very specific. I hear things, I see things. But like, the tone, like, I just know the tone of my dogs. If I'm receiving information from Amy, like, it is not consistent. Sometimes it is through angel numbers. Sometimes it's through other people. Sometimes it's just like any other synchronicity or sign that you would receive, but know that it was sent through telepathy. Like, there's ways, right? So there's just an example of, like, me deciding to go to the store, and I have the intention of asking Amy if she needs anything. Like, does she need anything? I don't tell Amy that I'm going to the store. But when I'm at the store, I grab something that I'm like, this isn't what I came for, but this looks really good. And then I go home and Amy sees that I went to the store and she's like, oh, so this could show up in one or two ways. But the first thing that came to me was like, oh, I wish you would have told me you were going to go to the store. I wanted to get some, and it happened to be that thing that I picked up. Or like, she's like just looking in the fridge and she happens to see this and she's like, oh, I wanted these, so like, or it could like, and it could just be like, she happens to text you when you're at the store. Like, there's so many ways that this comes up, right? And it comes up with us often, like texting each other the same thing at the same time, or like she'll know where I am, or like know that I'm about to do something and I haven't told her, and vice versa. It's going to be different with everyone. That is how Amy and I best serve each other in that way. It's like, we don't need to tell each other like, hey, this is our next step, because we just kind of trust that like we're going to know when they're moving, or like what their next step is if we need to. Like, we're going to know when we need to know. And it really removes like this clutter of, I need to tell Amy this, or like, why didn't you tell me this? There's just like less clutter to shift around. And it's not going to be like that for everyone. Like, your telepathy with somebody might be best served in legitimately other ways. Who knows? And just being open for that. And knowing that like, this is supposed to be fun. Like, this isn't supposed to make things complicated. This isn't supposed to make things any harder. So if it feels hard, or like you feel like you're guessing, like, remove the stress. It's not like that. Like I said, it is just like, it's like receiving that, knowing like, oh, I need to message that person today. The best way for me to talk to my best friend is to set the intention in the morning that I want to talk to her. And by 10 a.m., if I haven't sent her a message, she has sent me a message. Like, that's all it is. It's like efficiency. Telepathy is here to help us be more efficient with our communication. Because let me tell you, there's been a lot of miscommunication, and it's because we're not saying what we actually mean. And what they're saying is, it's time to create more pathways. Like, make things easier. You want a cheat code? Claim your telepathic. Do it, because the pathways for communication are going to open up. And think about this, like, as you open up more pathways for you and your family. So I put up my boundaries. This whole conversation came up to talk on the podcast and to share, is because I love my headphones. I don't have them with me, but I love my headphones. It is like a bubble for my telepathy. And I keep some streams open, even if I have my headphones on, because kids. But it's amazing. I can put my headphones on and it's just quiet. And then the other day I was working out and I had my headphones on and I took them off, and there was just all this talking, and I was home alone. So, it's very cool. It's very fun. And it doesn't have to be like that. You can use it to however, you want to serve you. But, it was a hiring the right mentor, or like signing up with the right coaches, was really also following my intuition. Like, trusting myself, I wouldn't have been so curious and excited about being telepathic. And it really healed my inner child, because it gave my inner child permission to go talk to the animals, to go talk to the beings that weren't just in my imagination. So, very healing. And I do say, like, it's great for kids. It is amazing for kids. I tell my kids every day, you can talk to me whenever you want, and I will always be there, and I will send them messages. So my kids and Amy are the 5, I guess, that I usually remain open for all the time. There will be, if I'm not open for my kids or Amy, they're aware. usually. And so, yeah, it's like that. It's like that. Like, we do this. This is not something we don't do. This is something that you need to recognize you do. If you want to use this to serve, like, to the, the best way possible, to serve you, to help you expand, to help you ascend, this is really an ascension cheat code. Like, this is a healing cheat code for sure. And it's not something that's out of reach for anyone. But you gotta trust yourself. If you're a dog, like, I will just say this, if you are an animal lover, a dog lover, I know you are talking to your dog. And with conviction, you talk to your dog, and I know you will get a response. If you sit there and you just know, I'm going to have this conversation, and know that, like, it might be your higher self talking to their higher self. It might not be like on this earthly plane right away, but you'll get there. And you're probably already there, but it's a matter of recognizing it. And you don't, and tell your mind every day, like, you don't need physical proof. All you need is energetic proof. So another way to do this is, so in your kids, so I'll say, send me messages all day. I'm going to be sending you to, and if you miss me, whatever, that pathway is always open. But with my kids, I have my oldest kid. She loves doing things as a team. Like, she likes to feel like she's in it with someone. And so if I am often like, go do this, or do this, like, it feels like I'm always sending her away to do stuff. But if I set the intention of, like, hey, we're going to do this together. You go tackle this, and I'm going to go over here and tackle this, and we're going to do this together. I don't say all that, because she's going to be like, she's 10, and be like, why are you talking to me like that? Like, I don't always say things like that, but with the intention and sending the message, I will say there's a lot less eye rolling. It's not a matter of, like, I guess it is kind of a matter of, like, what can I get out of this? But, like, that, it's like, I am meeting her where she's at. I'm meeting her in communication where she's at, because, we have the things that we need to get done or want to get done. And if I can communicate that with somebody in a way that is going to satisfy them, the way that feels good for their soul, like, I want to do that. But the best way for me to do that is telepathically, because oftentimes my human self jumps ahead and then says something that, like, doesn't match what I intend, right? And that's where we can really get caught up. And we're like, we didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say that. So slowing down and setting that intention of, what do I want to send? And then really observe and say, okay, did they receive that message? And you're going to know based off of, one, in kids, you're going to know based off of their behavior. There might be, like, change behavior. They might say something to you. They might verbally just respond. My son Genesis, he is so telepathic, but oftentimes he'll just respond verbally, and because he's very focused. And so, like, if I'm trying to, like, exchange energy with him telepathically and he's, like, busy playing, he just responds. So it really just depends on the connection, where they're at. And there's no right or wrong. Those are the coolest things. So I feel like that was a lot, but let me know if you guys will have to let me know if you are feeling this, have recognized your telepathic gifts, or if you're ready to get started, because it's exciting. Exciting. We're going to pull some cards here and then wrap up. Both of these cards are very interesting. Cloudiness. There is a big cloud above us, above some of you, I should say. Things are not what they seem. You're only trapped by your illusion. What freedom do you seek? This card is so on point for a few things that are like coming up for me personally, but just the energy in general, and very much applies for telepathy, because telepathy, how it cuts in and just like it's very direct, because it's set, like it's sent directly from your intention. There's no processing of like what words do I need to put with this or anything. It's like the pure form of intention. And so there's this freedom that comes up with telepathy, because you get this choice to express, to share, to set any intention you want, and know that that's what you're sending out. Like there's like this purity and there's this freedom from that. Things are not what they seem. Yeah. Okay. But look at this card. So if you're on YouTube, you get to look at the cards, remember. But both of these cards kind of feel like they're like blocking the whole picture, like trying to shut some of this out. The other card is anxiety isn't trying to limit you, but free you from a situation that no longer feels good. There is a cloud coming down on you and you think you are trapped. You think it's like, well, this sucks. Is kind of like the feeling. And sometimes your human self needs to recognize that. But what these cards are really like showing us is like this situation, this experience that might feel very like or like lower vibrational in your body, is really a gift to see what your choice is. How are you going to respond? How are you going to react to this? What's the story you're going to tell? Have you been here before? Is the question that they're asking me. Is like, sometimes we sit under these clouds acting like we don't know what to do. And we're like, we don't know what to do. We don't know how to get out of this. Like, woe is me. But our soul is like, you have been here before. This is all too familiar. And you get to decide. Like, you're not stuck. You're just not deciding. And it's like both of them. What is your discomfort trying to free you from? There's so much freedom. What freedom do you seek? So a lot of so you might feel like you don't have a choice in something right now. You might feel like your freedom is limited, or you don't have the capability to do what you want to do, the freedom to do what you want to do. And the message here is like, you're creating that scenario because you're not seeing all the possibilities. There's more possibilities that are available to you that you're not willing to see, because we're choosing to settle. We're choosing, because this happened, because X happened, it means Y can't happen. But conscious choice and what we believe and what we choose to believe is what we're going to create. So creating more possibilities is that trust and belief that we have a choice. We have the crossing, which is like an initiation. So initiating yourself into expansion. There's like this self-initiation is what they just keep saying. They keep saying that because sometimes we kind of like wait, like somebody's going to come save us, or there's going to be something that comes saves us, like a different opportunity or a different perspective. And this initiation card is really like, you're there, you're at the spot, like all you have to do is take the next step. You're the one that's like if you feel like you're waiting, they're saying just take a step. And you'll realize like it wasn't like you were waiting for you to take the step. So there's going to be some reconciliation. So Let me pull the next card. Ooh, okay, yeah. There's going to be some reconciliations that are going to come up for you, because as you're stepping forward and actually take this, these are actually very beautiful cards. Because what they're showing me, like what they're showing me right now is like, you're recognizing your power. You're recognizing that, like, oh wait, this doesn't have to look like this. I realize that it served me to see from this perspective, but I have this freedom of choice because I get to choose what perspective best serves me. I get to choose what story I want to tell. And I'm the one that gets to walk through this portal. It's really bright. I get to walk through this portal and initiate this new version of myself. I get to decide when I'm no longer going to limit my own self. And things are going to shift and things are going to change, right? You're going to have these they're saying conversations, but I also think like with yourself, like I think this is reconciliation with yourself for kind of betraying yourself for longer than you maybe have wanted to, and recognizing and forgiving yourself and loving yourself, right? Like you're exactly where you need to be. And the reconciliation, so this card is the wailing tree. What they're saying with that is you've built a foundation on other people's expectations. And that's where a lot of this has become cloudy for you. So when we start relying on other people's opinions or relying on what other people think of us, then we build this foundation that limits what's available for what we actually want, for what we truly desire. Because it just gets clouded in because you're putting on like a lot of energy into things that might not be true for you. So the reconciliation that's going to come up is from releasing all these things that you're like, actually, this is what might be holding me down into this lower vibration. This what might be taking up some of my time or energy or space. So I haven't seen that, like, hey, I can just go over here and step into this new opportunity. We've created an illusion of a box, and we're waiting for somebody to come knock down the walls. And what they're saying is all you have to do is stand up and step out of the box. This is the last card we pulled. This is like my favorite card in this deck too. Crown games, right use of power. This is recognizing your own power. This is recognizing that where you are at right now is because you needed to be there. You chose to go there. You needed to. And the feelings that are coming up for you right now is this like not urgency, that's not the right word, but this like deep longing desire for freedom. And you think you don't have it because there's this box and you don't see what's available to you because you've been committed to all these other things that aren't aligned for you. And maybe they were at one point, or maybe they weren't, but you felt safe and supported and secure with them. And you're ready to just like take this initiative, take this step into this new portal that's going to take you to a new version of yourself. But on this way, it is a little bit of this process, this cycle of reconciliation in order to recognize your own power and be able to use it, right? So
knowing you have the power and then deciding to use it is two different things. And they're saying this journey, this initiation, this claiming what is yours is here to help you. It's here to create more pathways for you. It's here to create more of your vision, right? You're going to be able to see and feel and be more of you. So, okay, that's what we have for today in telepathy. Holy cow. It's so much fun. So remember that we are just all such powerful beings, and we're all so supported, and we are going to be guided and driven to the things that we desire and to the things that are meant for us. So pay attention, be open. And yeah, if you enjoyed this episode of the Intuition Playground, please don't hesitate to share this episode on social media. You can tag me at the Intuition Playground or share with your friends, or you can leave a review, which is forever helpful for the podcast. And I will always be grateful for that because I love hearing what you guys have to say about the show. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk to you all next time on the Intuition Playground.